Welcome, everyone. This is our, I believe, fourth edition. It's the March 2018 edition of Entrepreneur Liftoff webinar. This is a live webinar, and the intention of this webinar is to share with Seattle businesses tools, tips, and strategies to help them grow their business, get unstuck, and technically lift off. That's why we named it Entrepreneur Liftoff. So we're hoping to bring you people that are both members of the chamber that can help you grow your business and share some of the things that worked really well for them, as well as local superstars, local business, owners that have achieved high levels of business success so that they can share with us what they've been doing. So this is a very casual conversation-based kind of webinar, so I'm going to get all the formal stuff out of the way quickly, and so we can get to talk with our two guests today. Essentially what I'll do is a little bit of an intro, and then I'll pass it on to Kimberly Ellerton from Woodinville Chamber. She's the marketing director at Woodinville Chamber. She's going to talk a little bit about who is Woodinville Chamber, what do we do, and how can you join. And then I'll start my interview with my first guest, which is currently a Woodinville Chamber member. And then once we're finished with that, which is about 20 minutes, we'll go into the second interview with a local business person, and that'll be another 20 minutes. Hopefully we'll have a few minutes in the end for a Q&A that I can open up to everybody on the call. All right. So let's kind of get started. So again, this is a live webinar. It's a partnership between Woodinville Chamber and myself. I'm a volunteer host, and I specialize in kind of helping people improve their behavior so that they can make a permanent change or upgrade in their results or their performance. So I'm kind of excited about today's webinar because both people that I'm going to be interviewing are educators, just like myself, but in different spaces and in different approaches, which is going to be really cool. So here's the agenda. Kind of went over it quickly. The first person we're going to be talking to is Scott. Scott, how do you pronounce your last name?
Chreist.
Chreist. I have the urge to say Christ.
Not quite.
Well, thank you for jumping on board, Scott. Scott has got an amazing story and an amazing business concept. So we'll be talking to him a lot about that. And then we've got Barney Cohen. Very cool story as well. Barney's going to share with us what he's done in the past and what he's doing now to help small businesses grow. All right. There's two intentions out of this webinar. The first one is to connect and empower entrepreneurs and business owners in the Seattle East Side area. So obviously everybody I talk to or interview on this webinar is going to have their contact information, their links, all added to the YouTube video that we're going to upload. So all of this is going to be recorded and we're going to upload it to YouTube. And so you're going to find the links to their websites. You're going to be able to find them on LinkedIn. We want to connect people, right? So what better way than to do it this way? And then the second thing is to share applied knowledge of proven success habits in order to inspire immediate action towards growth despite all existing limitations. This is extremely, extremely important for me because if it's not applied knowledge, meaning if I cannot take one single idea that's being shared today and go ahead and apply it to resolve a problem or a challenge in my business, then I failed. This whole webinar idea failed because I really do not want to share theory or some kind of, some high-level strategies now that are not relevant. These two individuals are on the call today to share with you things that you can turn around and actually apply today. So with that said, there are 4 tips to get the most out of this webinar, okay? You've got to eliminate all distractions. You know, if you need to isolate yourself in a separate room, turn off your phone, put it away, you know, do whatever you need to do. The second thing is you need to have a pen and paper. And if you don't, I urge you to go get one right now, because like I mentioned, you're only one idea away from having a breakthrough, right? So what if it's being shared in this phone call, in this webinar? I have it. I'm going to be taking notes if something kind of hits me, but that's important. And then decide right now what you want to get out of this webinar. So, you know, it's fun to just kind of listen in, but it's even more impactful if you listen in with an intention to resolve a specific challenge or a specific problem that you've been dealing with. All right? And then repetition, to me, is the mother of all learning. So the beauty is, even if you're not able to pay attention to everything being said, we're going to record this and we're going to upload it to YouTube so you could really watch it later as well. All right? And then just 3 house rules. If you're not speaking, please don't unmute your microphone. It impacts the recording with background noise. So there's a button on the left bottom of your screen that says unmute and mute. So you can just leave that muted if you don't mind. And then aside from guest speakers, your video doesn't have to be on. You can just leave it off. And then if you have a question, I'd love for you to either type it into the chat box, and I'll keep an eye out, and make sure that, you know, in the chat, there's actually a button in the bottom of your screen that says chat. So you click on that, and then it opens up a little box. You can type in your question in there, and then what'll happen is I'll see it on my end. Okay? So with that said, finally, feedback. Obviously, I'd love your feedback. 2 things I look for is what did we do well and what can we do differently? You can email that straight to me at danny@chirku.com. All right. So with that, I want to get all the presentation stuff out of the way. And then I'd love to have Kimberly, our lovely marketing director, share some information about the chamber, please, Kimberly.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Oh, let me back up. So let's see. I am so excited that we are hosting this webinar here today, and I'm coming to you from our Woodinville Visitor Center here in the heart of the Hollywood District in Woodinville. And we have a screen set up, some members who have joined us, and this is just my passion here, is getting to spend time with members. And the reason that we are doing this webinar, that Danny brought this idea to us, is so that we have a way for more businesses to connect with one another. And that is the goal. Our mission here at the Chamber is to promote, represent a successful business community. And I think that that's what we do a great job through a number of different ways. So if you're already a member of our Chamber, thank you. If you're not quite a member of our chamber, then hopefully today you'll be a part of this webinar, or you'll watch it later on our YouTube channel, which is getting quite a few hits after the fact. It's very exciting, and you'll consider joining. Our chamber has about, 309 businesses who are members, and that's anyone from a sole proprietor, a photographer, on up to a large corporation, Pacific Bag here in Woodinville, Chateau Saint Michel, and everything in between. We also have members who are outside of Woodinville. We had somebody join us last week from Monroe. We call that Greater Woodinville. And we hold networking events every single week. We always provide opportunities for our members to get together in person, get to know one another. And our goal is the more we can put businesses together with one another, the more they can do business together. And through this webinar, we're hoping to even further the education portion of our membership. And we think that we're, with Danny's help, doing a great job of that. So thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Kimberly. Yeah.
Outside of the networking, we also really focus a lot on political advocacy. Our executive director attends the city council meetings. We advocate on behalf of our members and businesses as a whole. We do a lot in our community and try to get our members connected with the community directly through things like our Woodinville Summer Concert Series, our Celebrate Woodinville Winterfest, and so much more. So there's lots to learn about our chamber. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to me. You can find our contact information on woodinvillechamber.org. But hopefully you'll learn a lot today, and we just are excited to hear from Scott and to hear from Barney, and I'll let you take it from here, Danny.
Cool. Thank you so much. All right. So our first guest is a local business in Woodinville. So Scott is the founder of Adventura, and some of you might already have experienced that, but he has over 25 years of experience facilitating, developing, and running outdoor adventure facilities. Scott graduated from the University of New Hampshire's Kinesiology department with a specialization in outdoor education. He's a former Outward Bound director and CEO of Team Builders, Inc. His creative insight and talent have taken him around the world, delivering innovative programs and designing unique workshops for a wide range of Fortune 500 companies. Welcome, Scott. Thank you for joining the webinar.
Oh, I got to unmute.
I took care of it.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about you and what got you into this space.
Oh boy. Okay, so I was fortunate enough in college to audit a class in experiential learning, and it just resonated so much so that I changed everything over to the degree, and I worked on that. I was influenced prior to college by my experience with Outward Bound as a teenager. My parents arranged for me to go on an Outward Bound program that lasted 30 days. And that really opened my eyes to how big the world was and how tiny I was as a person on the planet.
Wow.
It also really showed me, I think, a lot about how people from very different backgrounds can influence the happiness of one another by getting tasks done in an efficient manner. Nothing teaches you like that more than being on a 25-foot boat and having to figure out how to make dinner for 12 people.
Wow. Is that what you did? You on the 30 days?
We did the sailing program and we did mountaineering stuff too. And it was pretty stressful for a teenager. I mean, you got all your own stuff going on, and then now you're being introduced to a whole bunch of strangers, and you live with them for 30 days in not comfort. Not comfort.
So then what turned you on to do this?
So I think that experience and then finding the program in college kind of brought the two things together to where I realized that it was possible to create this environment for people to learn without having to backpack into the wilderness, and that it was applicable to adults. When I first started, I worked a lot with youth, and that was probably for the first 2 years, and then I gradually started attracting more businesses that were interested that were adults, and from there we just kind of turned that corner and focused on working with adults.
And so you've been in business for a while now. How long have you been doing this?
Oh gosh, when that bio was written, that was the 25-year mark. I think that I'm at 27 years now doing facilitation work. And it's interesting hearing that bio piece because I have been fortunate in that I have gotten to travel fairly extensively around the planet doing workshops.
Where were some of the cool places you went to?
Oh, well, I applied for a grant from the U.S. State Department to travel across Russia in the year 2000, and
Wow.
I did 47 workshops in 95 days, traveling across the country from St. Petersburg all the way to Novosibirsk.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And it was super fun because here was a whole population of people who had never once encountered what I was trained to do. And so it was shocking to them that playing a game with a hula hoop and two fuzzy fleece balls could create such chaos and at the same time lead them to learn things about themselves and their own behavior. So it was really a fascinating journey. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the core of your work is to help people and companies. I mean, you've done a lot of work with companies, right? Large companies, small companies, right?
Yeah.
And the core of your work is to create self-awareness, right? So that...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the idea is, and as you and I talked about before, it's team building is a byproduct, right? It happens when people are willing to look and learn about themselves, and when they look at themselves, they're doing it next to someone else who's doing it next to someone else. And when we do it as a group like this, we all have epiphanies that are happening throughout the whole process, or a workshop, or an individual activity. And those epiphanies are the things that create the conversations. And those conversations are what give us the ability to relate to one another better, or to understand that, oh, look, Carol has a similar struggle that I do, or Bob's figured something out that I hadn't thought of. And so it gives us familiarity with one another in an environment that is not based on an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint slide or some sort of task that we have to do at work. It's entirely based on a neutral activity, and that activity stimulates people's thinking process, but it also stimulates their ability to have conversations with one another. The facilitator plays the role of kind of poking and prodding those questions. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. If we were to think about that example where you shared you went to Russia, right? And you've obviously never done something like that before, right?
No,
That's
later and everything.
right. I mean, just, one of the things I want to help people, kind of business owners, overcome is, how do I approach mentally and emotionally and psychologically, how do I approach a situation that is going to help grow my business, but I've never done it before? Because it can trigger unlimited amount of alarms in your head of what could go wrong, right? And so if you think back to that situation where you were kind of getting ready to really actually take action on it, what was going through your mind? What were some of the fears, and how did you handle those fears?
Well, I think the biggest fear, and I suspect that this is true for all human beings, is that we all feel like someone's going to think we're a fraud, right?
Yeah.
They're going to think that we don't know what we're doing, and they're going to call us out on it, and it's going to be really embarrassing. And I think that's probably the underlying fear, is that you have two voices in your head. One says, yeah, I totally can do this. And the other voice says, are you faking it?
Yeah. Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? So I think that having people to talk to so that you can sort of use them as a sounding board with your ideas, that helps a lot. And eventually that converts into trusting people to join you in your business, right? So having somebody who is skilled at accounting is critical. Someone who is skilled at doing PR work is critical. And then you also have facilitators. In my world, facilitators they have the spotlight, but without the other people, the company wouldn't function properly. So it was a big step for me to trust people to come into various roles within the organization, because back in the year 2000, I did everything myself. Right? I was still, at that variation of the company was still in a startup kind of mode. And I did everything myself. And by doing that, I created lots of problems for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but that, I mean, I can see that so many times when you know that, hey, I need to stop doing this activity, I need to bring someone else to do it. There's a lot of overcoming the trust issues there, of delegating that. I know I can do it faster. I know I can do it quicker than this person and probably better than them, but how do I let them do it?
Yeah. So what I did, which is probably not normal, was I brought people in with my facilitators, and we would run workshops for our own organization on team building. So we would do the games and the activities ourselves.
For your own employees?
For my own employees, so that we could determine if people were a good fit with our organization or not.
Oh, wow.
So we used the ropes course environment, and we used rock climbing, and we used kayaking, and we used outdoor adventure stuff to sort of build a population of people who got along and worked well with each other. And that was how the core group started. That was there were 6 people total. And one of them was PR marketing stuff, and the other one was accounting and me. And then I had facilitators. And so that's how we started hiring people. And
that's
we continue doing that even today. And we're at 39 employees now.
Very cool. Very cool. So speaking of the Adventura outdoor, what do you call it, Scott? What is the term for it, so that people, I don't know the term.
The facility in Woodinville, we call that an adventure park.
Adventure park. Okay.
The old term for it is ropes course.
Ropes course, yeah.
That's a debate that we could go off.
Let's not. No, I just wanted to share the fact that I actually, part of a chamber event, we went out there and I really enjoyed it. It definitely looks easier when you look at it from underneath, and and then by the time you climb up, I literally had to freeze for a few minutes, gather myself, talk to myself before I was able to pursue.
And what's funny about that is your whole description is about your own perspective. I had to talk to myself. I had to calm down.
Yeah.
These are self-awareness things, right? So we want to put you in environments where you have to look at yourself, right? And it's not possible to go up onto an adventure course and not have your internal voice get really loud, right?
Right.
Whoa, this thing's wiggly, or this is a lot higher than I thought it was going to be, or is this cable really going to hold me?
Or I'm going to die.
Questions that are going on in your head.
Yeah, very cool. So tell me, you're in the education business, how often do you study yourself?
You mean like read and stuff like that?
Sure.
Or, yeah, pretty regularly. I have, you can't see it here in the background, but there's a bunch of shelves with books, and I'm constantly looking at what other people in my industry are proposing. What are their ideas? What are their theories? What are their theories based off of? And sometimes I'll pick up little bits and pieces from them that I will incorporate into my own work or into our work. And other times I gain a better sense of, I know what I'm doing better than some people. That's
it validates it for you.
There are, in our industry, there are conferences that occur across the country and worldwide. It's called the Association for Challenge Course Technology, and they host conferences all the time. And so I will go to those. They're usually 3 to 5 days long, and they have speakers and workshops that you can go to. You can pick. There's more than you could possibly go to in one conference.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're building your specialized knowledge constantly. Because that is your field, right? So you're constantly looking for books, seminars, conferences to build on top of what you already know.
Yeah, I think they say that, you know, when you steal an idea from somebody, it's a compliment, and I think that that's very much true, particularly in the world of facilitation. In that I go to a workshop and I see somebody do a game and they introduce it in a way I've never seen before, and so then I incorporate bits and pieces of that into my own work. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that deepening my own knowledge is certainly something that's important to me within my field. But I will also say that I do find myself pretty regularly searching for new technology, looking at new ways to do our reservation system, or even our voice, our calls, like our phone system, or our online communication flow between staff, or how we use text messaging with customers to make sure that they're on time and that they know where they're going. So there's all that stuff going on too. It's not purely just my facilitation work.
So, Scott, I know this is kind of a generic question, but if you were to summarize the 3 things that you think are the secret sauce for why you've been able to run a successful business all these years, what would those 3 things be? Whether it's, you know, things you do daily or things you believe in, what would you say those are?
All right, 3 things. Well, I think the first one is courage, right? It's just having the courage to put one foot in front of the other and keep going forward. You're going to encounter obstacles left and right, from the city to permitting to, I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And you have to just have the courage to keep pushing forward, I think is one. The other one that I think is critical is having a really good group of small social network of people that you interact with, because they help you feel like you're not out on the ocean all by yourself in a boat. So those 2 things. And then the third one, it's comical. I don't mean it to be flippant, but it is, you have to kind of be a little nuts to be an entrepreneur. There's 1,000 reasons every week of why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And you have to be able to push that off to the side and say, nope, I'm going to use my courage and I'm going to go after that thing.
Right.
So I know those are really kind of ambiguous terms, but I think the big part is courage to go forward, good friends to like bounce your ideas off of and talk through things with. And then the last part is, you know, just accept the fact that you're kind of nuts.
You know, it's funny you say that, because one of my favorite quotes from one of my mentors is keep reminding yourself to do the illogical, because everyone else is doing the logical and they're having very mediocre results. So just tell yourself, do the illogical.
You'll find that it leads to extraordinary catastrophes at times, but it also can produce significant, you know, success, or it gives you a great sense of accomplishment. We had our staff, our returning staff meeting yesterday in Woodinville over at the Sumerian Brewery, great brewery.
Nice.
And as I'm sitting there, I'm just looking around the room and I'm stunned to see, you know, 20 plus people showing up to this returning staff meeting, thinking to myself, how did this get so out of hand? how did I get so many people working really passionately for my business? And as we talked about before, I think it comes from really giving people the freedom to feel confident in themselves, right? So everybody that works for this company is an ambassador for this company, and none of them will shy away from talking your ears off about all the great stuff that we do. Yeah. I wandered a little bit, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, we're almost at time, but I got a couple more questions for you.
Right.
So what is your definition, your personal definition of confidence?
My personal definition of confidence. That's a hard question. I think that it's different for every person, but for me, I have to kind of change it a little bit. So what gives me confidence is the response and the interaction that I have with our customers. The way that we impact their lives, it fuels me, right? It fuels me to say, oh yeah, that was great. I'm so happy that we could change that person's perspective about themselves, and they were so thrilled by it that it re-energizes me. So then that encourages me to keep trying, right? To keep doing it more. And yep, every now and then we're going to have people who are unhappy because we've taken them too far out of their comfort zone. But the vast majority of people thrive with the experience.
So it's the reaffirmation of the results based on the actions you're taking. So by taking the risk to go talk to people and teach them, and they end up with a result where, oh my God, I've realized something by myself I didn't know, that is feeding into giving you more confidence.
Right.
That's awesome. So
it's instantaneous feedback, and it's typically positive, or it's typically it's showing that people are working hard to understand themselves. Yep.
Beautiful. I love it. It is by far one of the most important things in this world, confidence, because without it, really, people don't take action.
Well, confidence and trust. Trust is a really nebulous word, but when we talk about organizations, if you're not authentically trusting with people, things are not going to go well.
Yeah, I can imagine. So Scott, one last question for you. You're a prominent business in Woodinville. What is it that the Woodinville community or the business community can help you with? What is something we can support you with?
Well, okay. I think that there is a little bit of a misconception in the world around the concept of team building. And as we talked about earlier, I think the truth is that self-awareness and looking at how I function in the world and what my preferences are for how I communicate with people, how I receive information from people, that's at the core. And if I'm doing that in close proximity to my peers and coworkers, we're all going through something together that can change us as individuals. But because we shared in that experience, we have a different type of bond now. And so to answer your question more specifically, I would say that we're very passionate about working with small and medium-sized companies. The big companies, they're great. They love coming out and playing on the course, lots of morale events and recreational stuff. But our true calling and our passion is for the company that has 16 employees. And I have confidence that we can help those people create a foundation based on authentic trust and high self-awareness that can totally change the outcomes for that company.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time, and we're going to add your information to the YouTube channel so that people can reach out to you directly.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
See ya.
Bye-bye. So our next guest is Barney Cohen. Barney started as a young entrepreneur by opening his first record store in 1974. I was not even an idea back then. I was born in 1980. And over the next 20 years, he grew his small business into an international corporation with 3,000 employees. Major customers include Amazon, and $1 billion in annual revenue before taking it public in 1999. It wasn't luck that Barney got there. He succeeded by following basic business principles and developing straightforward processes and methods. And so now he's passing the experience and knowledge on to small business owners. So we'll get to know more about how he does that now. Hi, Barney. How are you? Let's unmute you for a second, Barney. 1 second. Okay, go ahead right now.
I said I'm fine. It's good to be here.
All right, awesome. So thank you for joining and making the time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm kind of excited to talk to you as well. So you have a pretty cool story. I read the bio on your site. I know people might have not had that chance yet, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your story?
Well, I do have a long bio on my site, and I know people like it because I can tell who leaves that page and who reads that page, and most people stay for the whole page. So I won't repeat the whole bio here. That would just take up a lot of time. I've always had a love of music. I've always had a love of business. They seem to be present in my life at a very early age. I didn't realize until I was in my young 20s that I would want to put them together and do something where I would have two of my largest passions all in one package. But I was able to do that, and I opened up a single record store in Woodland, California, which is a small town near Sacramento. The store did well. I expanded to a second store, which was in Davis, California. Probably many more people are familiar with Davis, California than Woodland. Davis has a UC school, which is famous for its school of enology. So anybody that's interested in winemaking has probably heard of UC Davis. It's a much bigger town than Woodland, and it had a lot more record buyers since it had 30,000 students. So putting that second store there put me on the map. Well, in those two stores, I sold those two stores in 1984 and started all over again at $0 in revenue with a wholesale distribution company. And that was called Valley Media. And I grew that company from zero at the beginning of 1985 to $1 billion in sales in 1999 when I took the company public. So we had a great ride, and I loved every minute of it. Except, of course, for the time or two when I didn't love it. I loved most every minute of it.
Wow, that's an awesome journey. Amazing accomplishment, by the way. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So what are you doing these days? You've kind of been on a new mission.
I've been a business consultant since 1999, starting in 2000. I just started helping out people I knew who'd call me and say, Barney, you're really good at marketing, or Barney, you're really good at sales. Would you come in here and help me do this or help me do that?
Yeah.
And I was just doing it for fun, just to keep busy. But more and more, I found out that I really liked working with people, helping people get their businesses to the point where the businesses thrived. I was not going to go back into the music business. The music business I knew disappeared. I was a record store owner, and then I was a company that distributed physical goods. Well,
yeah,
that's mostly gone now, which is a good lesson in and of itself.
Right.
Industries can change. But I found that I loved working with people, and I was really gratified by the results when I saw people do well, and people were happy to work with me when they got good results. And so I just kept doing that. Along the way, people asked me for, how do you do this and how do you do that? And slowly I built what I knew into a codified system for running a business. And I do have that wrapped up in a course which I offer online.
And what is it called?
The course is called The Business Tune-Up, It's the Business Tune-Up with Barney Cohen, and it's on my site called runmybusinessbetter.com.
I see. Barney, as you talk about your story and from what I read from your website, I can't help but notice you're very intuitive when it comes to riding a wave that is completely different than what you've been doing in the past. You've done that over and over and time again. Like, you were running your stores, but then this opportunity came to become a wholesaler and you jumped on it. I could imagine a lot of people would be challenged with that, because then it would be like leaving this, what seems like a comfort zone of what's working really well, to go jump on something that's not working, well, hasn't been proven yet, at least. And then, what kind of mentality did you approach that, and what made you take the jump?
Well, I'm a guy who thrives on challenges, and one of the problems for me was the work of running a record store day in and day out got routine, and once the job becomes routine, I don't want to do it as much. So I love new challenges, and that's one of the things I love about what I'm doing now. I have so many new things to learn. So I think that's the main thing that drives me. Some people are comfortable where there's routine. I'm somebody who's not comfortable with routine, and I feel like I'm in a rut when I do things over and over and over again. So I constantly seek out new opportunities and new challenges.
And do you think that's related to how much you've grown your business?
I think so. An entrepreneur is an optimist, and an entrepreneur looks for opportunities. Looking back on my career, on the business I owned that I took public, it seemed like every time I had a chance to walk through the door that said opportunity and growth, I said yes. And I find myself saying that in my work with my business clients today, is that if you want to grow a business and you want to have a big business, you need to be ready to say yes when that growth opportunity comes along. So that willingness to say yes is a really important thing for an entrepreneur that wants to grow a business.
What is it that, you're mentally kind of, what I'm hearing is that you're kind of mentally programmed to look for opportunity no matter where you're going, right? So what do you think did that for you, where you're constantly looking for opportunity?
I think it got put in there early. For whatever reason, I'm a guy who pays a lot of attention. Not everybody looks at the world as carefully as I do. It might be that I love detective stories. What's so great about a good detective story is you have to look for the clues. The clues are in there somewhere, and the good writers hide the clues, so it's hard to know exactly how the story is going to come out. And I think the world's like that too. I think there's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 great businesses waiting to be open tomorrow. But what makes a business a great business is that it addresses what I call a hole in the marketplace. So you have to go find those holes in the marketplace. You have to find that thing that's not being served very well. Sometimes it's obvious, but take somebody like Steve Jobs, who came out with the iPhone. There was no market for the iPhone when he decided to put it out there. He just felt that there was a need for it, and he sort of made the market. So there's a hole in the marketplace, but only he and a few other people saw it. So sometimes the holes are not so obvious. Sometimes they're giant and you can drive a truck through it. Sometimes not. You just never know.
So I see a library behind you. What's one of your favorite books that made a huge impact on you?
Oh gosh, I don't know whether to go with something that is a business book or something that is a non-business book.
Go with both.
Favorite business book is called In Search of Excellence by Tom Peters. It's a little outdated now. Tom Peters is a guru that trained a lot of people. A lot of tech people today say that it's Tom Peters that built Silicon Valley because everybody in Silicon Valley went to Tom Peters classes. In Search of Excellence makes one basic point, and that is get next to and stay very close to your customers. And that's something that a lot of businesses don't pay enough attention to. You need to be right there with your customers all the time. And that was main point. It was written, I think, in the late 70s, so the book's a little dated now. The philosophy of the book is wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's not written for a 2018 audience.
I mean, it's still relevant. I can see how important that is to kind of listen to what's happening really with your customers, right?
Yeah, I don't know that Howard Schultz took a class or took a workshop from Tom Peters, but Starbucks sure acts like they did, because what Starbucks does is they get very, very close to their customer. Another Seattle company that does a good job of getting close to the customer is Nordstrom's. They get they learn a lot about their customers. They go to great lengths to try and take care of their customer, and it pays off. So that's Tom Peters. On the nonfiction side, I've got so many favorites, but one book that I seem to read over and over again, it's a big book, is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. It's written a long time ago.
Okay.
It's a book that was written in the 1840s. Still is today. It was written in French, so you have to buy a translation if you're going to read it in English. It's a very big book. I think it's about 1,800 pages. It's a long,
oh my God! Wow.
Long book, but it's a page turner, and it's a story of revenge. And why I like it so much, and I use it in my business class, is because it illustrates the importance of planning. And sometimes fiction books do a better point of making a better job of making the point than nonfiction books do. Because sometimes when you get these stories outside of real, it's more obvious what the point is. And and it's clear from the very beginning that this is a work of fiction. I mean, I don't think anybody reading this book is going to think this really happened, but it is so compelling. He was really a great writer. Alexander.
Wow. That sounds like a piece of art. That's awesome. That's beautiful.
Yeah. He's more famous for The Three Musketeers. That's his most famous.
Okay. I didn't even make the connection. Okay, got it. So, I'd like to believe that success is not something that people are born with. These people are going to be successful. That's why they're successful. I can't be as successful as them. They're special. I'm not. They are blah, blah. I'm not blah, blah, right? What I'm trying to do is break that myth apart and show people, show evidence from people like you who's been really successful in business to really illustrate that it is actually small things or habits that are done consistently and daily. So what's one habit or one thing that you could pass on to business owners listening to this webinar that they could actually either get unstuck or even take their business to a completely different level?
Well, why don't I give you two? I'll give you one answer as if you were a business, one answer as if you were a person.
Perfect. I love it.
The business answer would be market every day.
Market every day.
Every day, you need to be marketing your business. Marketing is where businesses start. A business is an organization that sells things. You can't sell something to somebody unless they come in contact with you. That's the job of marketing. Marketing's purpose is to make your company more visible and identify your company as a company of interest to somebody who might want to buy your products. So market every day. When times are tough, you want to be marketing, but when times are good, you want to be marketing. You always want to be marketing your business. So that would be my tip for the
business. Yeah.
For a person.
Yeah.
Gosh, I got so many. But one thing that really cleared the space for me to do great things was to learn to get personally organized. So that's all the way from getting my desk cleaned off so that I have a clean, spacious place to work. Organized, I can find things, all the way to organizing my projects so that the thing that's most important on my desk is what I'm going to be working on next, and the things that aren't very important are put away where they belong. So there's a lot of ways to say that, but the easiest way is organize your space so that everything has a home.
And you know, one of the things that I could just see is that someone can just wave their hands in the air and say, "Oh my God, I'm screwed then because I'm not an organized person." Right? No matter what I try, I'm just not an organized person. What do you tell that person?
I tell that person, I tell every kind of person who has a question like this, is that little tiny things can make a big, big difference. Let's try one thing. Little tiny improvements make more improvements. And so a little tiny improvement would be at the end of every week, make a list of the 3 or 4 things that you need to tackle Monday morning. So that would be a way to get some structure or discipline into your weekly routine. Another would be whatever you've been working on today, put it away at the end of the day. It sounds simple. A lot of people say, I don't have time for that. I'm too hassled at the end of the day. But if you don't put things away at the end of the day, they'll be sitting there when you come into work tomorrow.
Right.
And if that seems too much, then I'll say, well, put half of your things away, or put a quarter of your things away.
Right. So start small, as long as start with something you're not going to be overwhelmed by, and it could be as small as cleaning up your desk, in the morning or before you take off for the day. Well, that's awesome, Barney. We're kind of running short on time. I do want to open it up for Q&A. So let's see here. So if anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to put it in the chat, or at this point, I think we don't have a lot of people, so you can even unmute yourself and ask if you have a question. But if I don't hear anything, I'll keep asking. I have lots of questions. Great. So, one of the things that I also wanted to know from you is your attitude about risk-taking, right? People could have really a good gut feeling about something they want to do, but then almost instantly they're going to shut down because of all the what if this happens, what if this doesn't go well, what if, boom, they're in shutdown, and they're really not going to carry on that idea or risk. So could you comment a little bit about that, Barney?
Sure. There's, I think, 2 kinds of people in the world. There's people that would start a business and people that won't start a business. The person who will start a business, yes, they're a risk taker, but the voices that are compelling them to go start that business are stronger than the voices that are saying to them, no, you shouldn't do this because it's too this or it's too that, costs too much money, it'll take too much time, it's too hard. All the reasons you would think of not doing something. What I say to people is, everything's a risk. Waking up in the morning is a risk. Probably the riskiest thing you do, or the most dangerous thing you do, is to get behind the wheel of a car. But who thinks like that? Who thinks, oh my gosh, I'm getting behind the wheel of the car, and this is the most dangerous thing I'm going to do this day, this week, maybe in my whole life. It's much more dangerous than getting on an airplane, and yet people are more frightened of getting on an airplane than they are of getting in a car. But statistics, you're going to get hurt.
Right. That's
so many times. Yeah. So
it's a good analogy. It's what we make it mean. Sitting in a car, we don't think of it. We just do it every day. So, all right. Well, let's see. I think I have a cool question for you, Barney.
Okay.
What accomplishment are you proud of the most, and why?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. I've done a lot of great things. The one that is top of mind is the one that's happened the most recently. I have lots of little wins. Some of them are big wins with my clients, and they're the ones that fill me with the most pride, and that's sort of what's on my mind at the moment. I just worked with a customer who was deathly afraid of running out of money. And when she finally showed me her cash flow, I discovered that, I wasn't worried about running out of money. So why is she worried about running out of money? And it's just that she's not used to this idea of managing her cash and making sure that there was always enough money in the right place to pay the bills on time. And so I showed her how to do a cash flow analysis, break-even analysis, cash flow analysis, and then helped her build a cash flow system. And she's using it now, and she's discovering that she can control whether she runs out of money. I'm really proud of that, because that moment where she got it is she just lit up like a light bulb, like a Christmas.
Nice.
And it's a nice feeling for me to see someone get something like that.
Yeah.
So that's something it's not huge. It's not like I didn't make me $100 million off of that thing.
Yeah.
But it really fills me with a lot of pleasure to see somebody get it.
It's almost related to what we were talking about with Scott, right? Giving her the confidence to feel back in control is what was gratifying for you. It's putting her back in control.
Yeah, that's a good way of connecting us all. Yeah, I really like helping people grow their businesses, and the way I do it is by showing people how they can get control of their own business and get the tools they need to make the business thrive.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Well, last call for questions. If there's anybody on the call that's interested, we've got about 3 minutes left. So you can either type it in the chat or unmute yourself. Happy to do it either way. And meanwhile, I'll think of another question for Barney. I'm going to work this guy. You got to share your story from the bio about, I've already forgotten his name, the artist you didn't even know, and the gentleman that came and asked you for his albums in the beginning of your career.
The gentleman.
Owens? Is it something Owens?
Oh, Buck Owens, yeah.
Buck Owens.
Yeah, on my very first day in the record store, I had an artist, I had a customer walk in to my store and ask for Buck Owens. Well, I was born and raised in Kansas City, and I liked rhythm and blues, and I didn't listen to country music. And I had opened a store in Woodland, California, which was, country music central. It's a place where mainly are farmers and people that work on farms, and they listen to country music. So I had this record store open, and one of my first customers asked for Buck Owens. I had no idea who that was. I had never heard of Buck Owens. So I had to say to the customer, I'm sorry, I don't even know who you're talking about. And then he said to me, oh, and by the way, I want it on 8-track tape. And I didn't carry any 8-track tapes because I was a snob, and I only had albums, and I wouldn't buy an 8-track tape or put an 8-track tape in an 8-track tape player because the sound quality wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. So this goes back to the Tom Peters, who hadn't written his book yet. This man said to me, well, son, if you want to do well in this town, you better figure out who Buck Owens is. And, the next time I come in here, I'd like to see some Buck Owens. I said, well, if you give me your name and your number, I'd be glad I'll get some for you right away, and I'll be glad to call you. And he looked at me and said, I like your style. And he pulled out 10 $100 bills. And that was a lot of money back then, $1,000. And he said, here's $1,000. I want you to get me all the Buck Owens tapes you can, and I want you to get me 1 or 2 other good country tapes every week until this money is used up. Well, it turns out that this guy was one of the wealthiest men in my town, and maybe even in the country. He was a major farmer. Everyone in Woodland looked like a regular old guy because they wore jeans and boots. And he told everybody about this story, and he brought me a lot of customers. And he and his family were great customers of mine for a long time. So the moral there is, get close to your customer.
Listen to your customer, right? Get close to your customer. There you go.
We have one more second. The second part of the story is that about 15 years later, I was a much larger player in the music business. I wasn't a single little record store. I was now a pretty good sized distributor. And it turns out that Buck Owens was making a comeback, and he was traveling around the country visiting record outlets to talk about his new album. And so the record company arranged a lunch with me and my staff and with Buck Owens, and we had a staff, and we had a lunch, and I told him this story. And my staff was aghast. They said, "How do you tell a story like that to a star?" And I said, "Well, because it's true, and I think he'd find it amusing."
Yeah, it is funny.
He loved it. He was there with his manager, and he said, "I like this guy. Send this guy one of my signed guitars." And he did. He signed me
Boom.
red, white, and blue Buck Owens guitar.
Oh my goodness. There you go. There's a nice gift for following your intuition, right?
Yeah.
So if we've learned anything from Barney today is to get close to your customer.
Get close to your customer.
Get close to your customer. Awesome. Market every day and learn to get organized.
Yeah, there you go. Those are all good things.
Thank you so much, Barney. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I love doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, this is it for this edition. We will see you on the next one. Thank you all. Bye-bye.